I look around the room today. I'm not deluded. Some of you actually do support the Prime Minister, and maybe 50-50 in this hall are big fans of the Prime Minister. And the other half, of course, are huge supporters of Barack Obama. You can't lead, ladies and gentlemen, unless you listen. And we have really listened. We've listened to heartfelt stories about lost jobs, small businesses on the edge, fears about paying for drugs for your sick children, worries about having to go to the local food bank. And I've heard troubling questions that go to the heart of our dilemma as a people. How will I ever get my first job? Have I seen my last job? How do I tell loyal employees that we're closing down? How will I help get my kids the funds for college? And a large number of Canadians come up to me and they say, I'm going to get by, but I'm worried about my neighbor. I'm worried about my co-worker. And it's a good thing to hear that. We're a people who look out for each other, and we must not lose that. Because recessions can divide a country. They can make us mean. They can turn us selfish, and we must not let that happen. We Liberals understand something about leadership in tough times. We've been here before, and Canadians turn to us when times are tough, because Canadians remember. They remember sound fiscal management, repeated surpluses, debt reduction, tax cuts on profits, revenue, and income, strong financial performance, and forward-looking social policy. Canadians remember that it was we who cleaned up the $42 billion deficit left behind by Brian Mulroney. We slayed that deficit, but we know, and we got the scars to prove it, how tough it was. When you start a deficit, it's difficult to get it out of your system. Today, Mr. Harper is taking us back to those tough Tory times. Just yesterday, he signaled that we should be prepared for a $64 billion deficit in the next 2 years. And he wants to get the bad news out of the way before the budget. I asked Mr. Harper not to play games like that. I told him, put the facts and figures on the table. Don't let them slip out at his convenience. But the guy just can't help himself. He thinks it's all some kind of political game. But the release of this budget information was irresponsible and costly to our economy. And who knows how many years Mr. Harper is planning to be in deficit. He hasn't shared that information with us. What we do know is that it was a long, hard road to dig us out of the deficit during the last Mulroney government. As we face the budget choices this week, I have been clear. Targeted assistance to those Canadians who need help most is essential. But broad-based tax cuts that dig us deeper into deficit are not. This is not about political positioning, my friends. This is a basic issue in political morality. My generation should pay its freight. I am not going to burden the next generation with debts that we didn't pay off. If the government proposes a deficit, and we accept the necessity of a temporary deficit, but if they propose a deficit, I want to see the plan that digs us out. And I don't want the plan based on some numbers made up in the PMO's office. Trust Canadians with the truth, then show them you're competent. We face hard times headed towards a deficit that may top $100 billion before we get to the other side of this thing. And the question Canadians are asking is, how did this guy get it so wrong? How did Stephen Harper completely misjudge the crisis we're facing? In September, on the campaign trail, you'll remember, Mr. Harper said if we were going to have a recession, he probably would have had it by now. Remember that? In October, he told us there was still no recession, but this is great. There was sure to be a lot of great buying opportunities emergence as a consequence of all that panic, I quote. In all seriousness, that was Mr. Harper's strategy. Let the chips fall where they may, and if you can make a few bucks on the misfortune of others, good luck to you. I don't like that kind of politics. And I'm in politics to stop that kind of politics. No, you don't. Back down. Think again. This isn't a game. This is a recession with painful human consequence, so let's get serious. On Tuesday, we'll see whether Mr. Harper has started to listen. We'll see whether he's finally got serious. And if he hasn't learned to listen, he is not going to lead for long. In hard times, Canadians expect compassion, understanding, and competence from their government. The Canadians expect their leaders to have a plan to manage the problem, a plan to lead the country. And this government has failed them. The federal government has been weakened in its capacity to deal with the problems we face in a time of turbulence and uncertainty. Reckless spending and irresponsible tax policies have left Canadian jobs, savings, and pensions hanging in the balance. Canadians deserve better. We deserve better than a government that turned an economic crisis into a political crisis and from there into a national unity crisis. Mr. Harper, this is the key thing for me. Mr. Harper has allowed this country to slip, to become less than the sum of its parts. And now is the time to invest wisely so that this country once again becomes more than the sum of its parts. Canadians want a government that puts their country first. Enough with the games. Enough with the attack ads. Enough with the divide and rule. Let's try and do what's right. I swear to you, I will try to do what's right for my country next week. But I will ask some tough questions, because that's my job. Some tough questions of Mr. Harper and his budget. Will it help the needy? Will it save jobs? Will it create the jobs of tomorrow? Will it be fair to all of Canada's regions? And will it burden our children with debt? Those are the questions a responsible opposition has to ask. And if the government fails, the answers don't cut it, I am ready to lead. But I do not seek office at any price. And I'm looking for shortcuts here. But I am ready. And my team is ready. And my deepest instincts, the instincts of this Liberal team, is that this country is strong, not weak. It is united, not divided. We are a determined, courageous, uncomplaining, and resolute people. Look at the country now. Imagine what we can be. We can jumpstart job creation. We can spur innovation. We can lay the foundations for an economy of the future. We can protect the vulnerable, protect the jobs of today, create the jobs for tomorrow. This is the test this budget must meet. And my job is not to let Mr. Harper skate by with a passing grade. That's not good enough. It's not acceptable for Canadians. Not in these times, not ever. Now's the time to do better. My party and I want to bring people together with common purpose and common enterprise, to show courage and boldness and revive the faith that people have in themselves and in their country, to draw upon the resourcefulness of Canadians and ask them to be equal to the greatness of this wonderful country, to forge long-term prosperity, strengthen our citizenship, strengthen our unity, rediscover our place in the world. Canadians understand the future poses challenge. The days ahead will be difficult. But together, tous ensemble, we can fill them with optimism and hope. And then, mes chers amis, my fellow citizens, my friends in this room, our light will truly shine. Thank you so much.